Okay, moving on with the next definition. It's filler plate, and a filler plate is a item that is used to close off a preparation in doors and in frames, and it can be used for hinge preps, they can be used for strike preps, they can be used for lock preps, and are generally meant indeed exactly that. Close something off is all you want to do. You want to make it, you either want to seal off a hole, in the, a 2 1/8 inch hole through a door, or you want to blank out a strike plate because you have push and pull hardware, or what you have is a stock door that you've hung on a full surface continuous geared aluminum hinge, and you want to blank all those plates off. I always recommend that clients have filler plates installed, even when they've not asked for them. First of all, it's going to give a cleaner appearance overall. Second, they will appreciate the fact that you thought enough about their job to make that recommendation, and they always say yes. Third, it's a great upsell. It's just simply the bottom line. Filler plates are made to be screwed or mechanically fastened to the door or the frame. Also, there are times when they're simply made to be welded in as well. So there are types of jobs where I will need to clarify with the client. Listen, what do you want? Do you want just loose filler plates that you're going to screw in and that's it? Or do you want something more exotic, like a continuous weld, ground? And there are certainly different companies that make filler plates. A lot of the time, what I'll want to end up doing is, if I'm going to order hollow metal from the manufacturer, I will have them supply it. The upside, it's not an opportunity for you to forget them. The downside is you'll pay more money having the manufacturer provide them, no doubt. Usually, not always. But the upside's pretty clear that if you're going to drop ship hollow metal to the job site, now you've got this package of filler plates you have to UPS to them. You might want to avoid that. Plus, also when I order material, I'm clear about what I need to have the door and or frame prepped for. So if I'm saying that a door is to be prepped for 3 4.5 inch 0.180 butts only, and I don't define what I want on the strike jam, the factory may not understand what I want. So I will always be very clear about strike jam to be blank. And if I need to have a particular finished result, I will clarify filler plate to be welded in and ground smooth and primed. Or I'll say attach loose filler plate if that's all that the job needs. What you don't want to have happen is if you tell the factory, well, prep it for 3 hinges only, you could get a call from them and say, well, what are you doing for the lock? You've got a 86 edge on the door. Is it a mortise lock? Or are you going to blank that off? So you'll probably just want to be really clear about it. At the end of the day, there are lots of people who make filler plates, hollow metal suppliers, such as Gulfport Industries. All your hollow metal door manufacturers are going to provide them. Hager has a line of steel filler plates. Donjo does. Rockwood does. And there's probably countless others that I'm just not thinking of. We stock a complement of filler plates from Donjo because that's many years ago. That's just what we stocked. So I know the part numbers and I know the product line. We also stock from Hager filler plates because people ask for that stuff. We also stock filler plates from Rockwood. And at the end of the day, you're going to need hinge fillers, strike fillers, latch fillers, and some other odd items as well. And here's what I mean by that. A filler plate doesn't have to blank something off. A filler plate can also convert something to something else. And a prime example of that is you've got an 86 edge door and you want to convert that to a cylindrical lock prep. So you can get a filler plate, but it's more of a conversion plate, but it's grouped under filler plates, and I'll show you what that is. There's other pieces of filler plates like that. You don't really bump into them very often, but you can convert a 4 7/8 strike into a different sort of roller latch strike prep. When it comes to flush bolt strikes, you can get filler plates for those. You don't sell those very often where you need to remove flush bolts, but it does happen. Deadbolt strikes, strike fillers, you'll bump into those. The most common fillers are going to be your ASA, your 4 7/8 strike filler. It's going to be your hinge fillers. And you got to be careful with hinge fillers because there's 1.5 inch, 1.5/8, and 1 3/4. Okay, and then there's 4.5 and 5 inch. 1 3/4, you're always going to apply to the door, assuming you have a square edge door that's non-handed and cut all the way through. If it is one that's handed, you might want to look at the 1.5 inch. Sometimes on the frame, you'll use the 1 5/8, but what you don't want to have happen is you're better off going with an 1.5 inch wide filler for the jamb if you're going to use a continuous hinge, because that filler plate needs to stop well short of the face of the jamb so you can slap that hinge right on there. At the end of the day, looking at a catalog is most certainly the easiest way to just understand what's available. So let's switch to the screen view and I will show you where we have some resources so that you can see offerings of filler.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
Okay, let's talk about filler plates, and here we are. Let's go to Hager. Let's type in, actually a good part number for Hager would be a 336Q. And Hager doesn't have the most comprehensive offering, but they've got all the common typical culprits that you'll need. So this is a 4 7/8 strike filler, the 336Q. Product catalog can be seen here. And here you go. Not a lot that you're really dealing with, a couple of pages. So under the header of filler plates, you're going to have exactly that. Door edge filler plate. This is for blanking out the edge of a 161, blanking out the edge of an 86 edge. 2 1/8 inch hole fillers, a couple of different diameters, right. Door edge fillers, 1 3/4, 1.5 inch. They don't have an 1.5 inch. Oh, they do. It's right here. It's under the hinge filler for a frame, 1 5/8. I find sometimes that's too big. Okay, and then you have 5 inch filler plates. They've got square edge and beveled. I can only think that the difference here would be the way that the holes are countersunk, whether it's between square edge and beveled. You've got a flush bolt strike filler. Then you have a flush bolt filler that would go in the door, the 6 3/4 by 1 inch. Unusual to sell those, but once in a while you do. That's 1 5/8 by 4.5. Yeah, that's the hinge filler typically for a frame. Page 2 is going to show the same thing in 5 inch. Then a conversion plate, 86 to 161. Those you're going to need. Those are nice to have around. A 2 3/4 tall deadbolt strike filler, that 336Q that we just talked about, 4 7/8. Then you have got a T-strike. You're not going to bump into those really often. I do stock them, but boy, if I sell 20 of those in a decade, it's unusual. You'll bump into those strikes if you're dealing with projects Chicago, 1960s and 70s along the Gold Coast, lots of buildings built from there all the way up to Loyola University, 20, 30, 40-story condo buildings, hollow metal frames, skinny frame profile, unusual heights, always T-strikes. Shims, those are also going to be showing up under this sort of product category. These you're going to want to have in stock at all times. They've got a 28 thousandths and a 65 thousandths and a 4.5, and then 5 inch as well. Let's take a look at Gulfport. That comes to mind next. Gulfport Industries, they're in or outside of Tampa. They claim to make hollow metal parts for every major hollow metal door manufacturer. I don't have any reason to disagree with that statement. But under the Gulfport page, you're going to find their parts catalog. Now, they've got a real comprehensive offering of hollow metal accessories, bolts, anchors, etc. It goes on and on and on. What they're going to get into also are fillers that are blank, meaning they're expecting that you're going to weld it. Now, the hole fillers I had showed you earlier, those aren't from Hager. Those aren't appropriate if you're going to put a rim exit device over them. Something like this, or the Donjo that I'll show you, would be more appropriate because the head case has to fit over this. And let's just continue to go through. We'll keep going until we find fillers. Yeah, see right here. A couple of hole fillers that you may or may not need. Smaller for a deadbolt if you have an 1.5 inch hole. If you want to truly blank off a 161 prep, well, here it is. That's meant to be welded in, as are these deadbolt punch outs. Conversions, That's the 86 to 161. That's the 86 to 4 7/8 if you're going to take an 86 edge prep door off the shelf and turn it into an inactive. Really, we don't sell those often, but yeah, you should probably have those on hand. And with this, you'd need to make a modification to the door slightly to account for the lip of the strike. These are guides. There's a filler, 8" by 1¼ for obviously 86 edges. Glazing bead, screws. Yeah, okay. Now let's also take a look at, I had mentioned Danjo. They're a good source for fillers. Let's take a look at them. We're also going to take a look at Rockwood. I had mentioned them. Filler plates, mounting tabs, and signs. Okay, here you go. Now Danjo's nice because they have some things that you may bump into occasionally and different takes on this material. They've got an EPT1 filler plate. So if you're pulling out a Von Duprin power transfer and want to blank that off, they've got one for that. FBRA and FBRB, those are going to be for, I think these are flush bolt fillers. Really, they're strikes is really more of what they are. Possibly a reversible style that's here, depending on how it's been prepped, or just a blank. Back to the hinge prep cutouts. 4 7/8. They've got full shims and they've got half width shims. These are nice too if you want to tip or cant the door in a particular way. Obviously, your 86 edge material, an LW86, 1/4 inch thick. I don't know where you bump into that. It might be if you have a much older mortise lock that you're pulling out. That could be where you'd need a thicker edge filler, shown here. This is the EF160, that's a 1" wide, whereas the 161 is 1 1/8. Flush bolt strike and body fillers, hinge fillers. HF, SHF, 1.5" and 1 3/4. They may not have 1 5/8. Let's keep going through. Conversion plates. Yeah, that's the 86 to 161. That's for a sergeant prep. That's for a lock and a deadbolt prep and an 86 edge. That's nice. This is a roller latch conversion. Deadbolt strike for 86 for a pair of doors. If you've got a pair of doors and you're just putting a deadbolt in the active, use an 86 edge on the inactive door and then slap that in. Okay. Yeah, I think this is just a plate that will go into an 86 edge, and you're going to surface mount your 4 7/8 strike right over that. Now this is an EL86, converts mortise to electronic lock. You'll have to be really careful what lock you've got here and maybe look up the technical drawing for this, because I don't know what that center line relocation is for this. You'll have to make sure that the relocation for center line on the EL86, which is different than the CV86, you'll have to be sure of what that is. Now, one other thing to note, there are times when Danjo has other colors available. Prime coat, silver, dark bronze, things of that nature. This is a great page for the hole fillers. If you have a really big lock prep, let's say you've got a grade 1 cylindrical lever with through bolt holes, you're going to need a bigger diameter. Yeah, this must just be a thin door spacer is probably what this is. 2 1/8. If you're doing panic devices, use the PDF 161. If you've got old B400 series deadbolts from Schlage, use the 1.5". Probably another thin door spacer. Conversion plate. Now, they also have these filler plates where you're removing an electric strike. Doesn't come up often, but it does come up often enough to where I stock the AF260 for sure, probably this one. So you can remove these strikes, these electric strikes, and either blank them off, or you're going with just a non-electrified option or some different electrified option. They also have kits. These are nice. I don't buy them in kits, but there would be no reason not to. It's just, if someone's doing a strike and an edge, they may not need this filler. So we don't stock them that way, but not a big deal. Also, since we're talking about Danjo when it comes to filler plates, yeah, weldable hinge reinforcements. Those are typical. We sell those. We stock these. It's under the same sort of heading. Dust boxes that you can weld in are also there under the same type of heading. A small smattering of anchors, tabs and guides and glazing channels and things of that nature, reinforcements, etc. So as you can see, Danjo is pretty nice because they've got an offering of material. Let's take a look at Rockwood in closing, and then you can decide. Rockwood doesn't have a huge list. This used to be under Pemco, and before that it was Marcar. And that was when Marcar was their own independent company that was in the greater Buffalo area of New York, if I recall. Not Buffalo, but the American side of Niagara Falls was not very far from where Marcar originally was. I was at their shop back in the 90s before they were owned by ASA. It was fun, like a 3,000 square foot shop, a bunch of guys sitting at press breaks and just making stuff. Anyway, filler plates, the common culprits that we're going to bump into. What's nice about these is they're just shelf packs of 25. You can just buy a pack of 25 and you're off to the races if that's what you need, if that's what you want. Yeah, and my theory about the hinge plate varying if it's beveled, it's probably got everything to do with how it's countersunk, just so that the screw can fit in flat. And there you go. So the Rockwood catalog's pretty nice. That's a flush bolt filler. Again, you don't sell those often. Hole fillers, shims. We definitely stock shims. Conversion or latch adapter, they call it. A 161 filler, T-strike 4 7/8. That's a deadbolt strike. And that's it. So they don't have what quantity that Danjo has, but at the end of the day, they sure have some basics covered. Let me take a look at the glossary. So we have filler plate, a metal plate used to fill unused mortise cutouts in a door or a frame. Yeah, absolutely. Not much to add about that. Let's wrap up this video on camera.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
So at the end of the day, when it comes to filler plates, as I mentioned, we stock filler plates from many different manufacturers, and it's because of what people are asking for. We just want to endeavor to have the item on the shelf that the client asks for, but it's also deployment. You know, Rockwood and Hager, they don't have everything. Danjo does a really great job, but there are times when I'm not buying 4 7/8 strike fillers from Danjo just because I'm not thinking of Danjo for that. I'm probably more thinking Hager. So you're going to need them if you're a hollow metal distributor. You're going to want to have a shelf that you are topped off on strike fillers, frame fillers, conversion plates, shims to be sure, and at the end of the day, be mindful with your client whether or not you are going to be just screwing it in, or if they're really expecting there to be no hairline at all when you're putting in filler plates. You don't want to make up a dozen frames 3070 with 4-inch heads, and you've got exit-only rim exits, and then you've supplied Hager 336Qs, and your client was expecting a truly blank jam, not a blanked out jam. Nothing makes a Friday at 4 p.m. worse than getting that sort of call. Anyway, let's move on to the next definition.
Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.